Hello, everyone. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. It is Black Friday, and for shoppers up in Iowa and Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, I hope you got it done today because snow is on the way. It's a snow blitz for that area. We'll dive into it. Hi, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. We'll start by doing the setup for this snow. First of all, let's take a look at the visible satellite loop. This was recorded about midday. It's just when the visible satellite is at its peak. And you can definitely see something going on here in the Great Plains. There's evidence of a stronger jet stream pattern, what I call the bear claw, which is indicative of a ridge of high pressure being replaced by a trough. And you can just see the spinning starting to take place right there. And it's also very clear that we have very windy conditions with squalls coming off the lake. And as you probably guessed, those are snow squalls. We'll show you that here in a minute as well. So here's what I'm talking about. We have this mini little ridge of high pressure here, but it is quickly going to be replaced by this very deepening trough at 500 millibars. It's going to be diving in and causing lift out ahead of it, and that is what's going to create the snow. Already is creating the snow and will through at least Sunday morning, with maybe another little wave after that early next week. Meanwhile, there's a strong trough of low pressure also off the east coast of the United States, and just little ripples in the flow here helping to aid some of that lake effect snow. And so at the surface, we have a warm front right here. But it's going to lift north, but not enough to warm the temperatures to prevent what's happening right here from being a pretty big snow. High pressure ridge at the surface extends from northern parts of Minnesota all the way down to the Gulf, but of course it's being quickly replaced by that upper level system and this frontal system where all the precipitation is going to occur north of the warm front in a lifting zone, which is pretty typical if there's enough moisture for a warm front or the equivalent, really, a stationary front aligned the same way. Let's take a look at, again, around midday at what's going on here in the Northeast. We still have really rapid flow across the lake. So lake effect snow bands here and off here. And of course, Lakes Erie and Ontario, very, very much in effect. If we take a look at the radar loop, again, I think I recorded this about 1 o'clock in the afternoon or so. You can see the very, very ideal looking snow bands. These they're very, very obvious for what they are when you see them, because they form in little rows like this. And this is with lake effect snow. That's how you can get like nothing. I'm just taking Lake Superior as an example here. That's how you can get next to no snow here and a foot of snow right here, because these bands are very, very specific. And it's not a real buster of a lake effect snow around Cleveland, but it is actually pretty good. And of course, this is the beginning of the snow here in Iowa and up to around Sioux Falls, and that is quickly overtaking the Midwest. Let's take a closer look. We'll start by taking a look at the NAM, and that's the forecast for, well, this will come out around 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. So it's depicting where that current snow is pretty well now. Remember, the radar is recorded earlier, so it's actually doing a pretty good job. Might be a little slow, actually. But what we're having here is developing low pressure. Remember that 500 millibar trough is digging in. So that's 6 p.m. Friday. By 6 a.m. Saturday, the snow overtakes a large area, starting back in the Dakotas, going all the way through Iowa, just about covering the state, Minnesota, and quickly moving into Illinois and southern Wisconsin here. The rain snow line is right here, so the northeast corner of the state of Missouri is under a winter weather watch, winter weather advisory. Meanwhile, it'll be warm through the rest of the state, warm enough to prevent it from being snow. This arrow here is the beginning of the low pressure area. Now I advance 12 more hours to 6 p.m. Saturday, tomorrow. This low really digs in around Davenport, Iowa, and so it started here and is tracking right towards Chicago with what this is called warm advection right here. So these snows can be pretty heavy. And then we have the backlash snows to the north and to the northwest of the low, and that often lays down a pretty good track of snow. So yeah, it's looking like a classic snowstorm. And then by 6 a.m. on Sunday, this low is already just about into Canada. And then the cold air is piling in behind this, and then we see these lake effect snow areas there, and increasingly they're going to be happening again in Lake Erie and eventually Lake Ontario. So how much are we talking about here? Well, this was the Weather Service look at it. This is only 48 hours through Sunday morning. I recorded this earlier today, so they may have upped some of these totals a little bit. But the purple right here is a half foot of snow. So the northern half of Illinois is expecting a half foot of snow. All of Iowa practically is. When you see that darker purple, that is starting to get into a foot of snow right here. And some of these totals in Iowa are approaching a foot and a half. So I think I see a 16 right there. So this is a major snowstorm happening mostly tonight and on Saturday and a little bit into Saturday night. So if you're traveling on Sunday, maybe the roads would be cleared off. It just depends on how much snow ultimately gets laid down. I did want to show you, that was the National Weather Service forecast. I did want to show you the EPS model. This is a mean of the ensemble. So it's a little less enthusiastic about snow, about a half inch, but the targeting is about the same. And it's also picking up on these lake effect snows. And the U.S. version of the same idea, where you run multiple models and then take a mean, it's a little more juicy with 9-inch totals there in central Iowa, and probably a little more east with the heavier snow just in general. So a winter storm warning is in effect for Chicagoland, Milwaukee, most of the northern half of Indiana, barely including Indianapolis, Springfield, Illinois, just about all of Iowa, like I said, Des Moines certainly, and into southern parts of Minnesota and into Wisconsin. And the purple is a winter weather advisory. Usually the way that works is a winter storm warning is the core with winter weather advisories on the outside, and then there's a watch right here. Now, I did record this earlier. They may have extended that warning more to the east since I recorded this. There is also that lake effect snow with lake effect snow warnings that has its own category there from Cleveland all the way up into the western part of New York State. And again, that's Lake Erie's contribution to it. Lake Ontario here is contributing this. And again, snow is heavier where it's green, and then winter weather advisories imply less snow where you see the purple shading. And that's through at least tonight. A lot of this will expire, but of course the low pressure area it will drop snow mostly in Canada here, because warm air advection will be occurring here. But the backlash of that low by Sunday and Monday will produce more lake effect snows. So here's just snow over the past 24 hours. Again, this would have been from about noon yesterday, Thursday, Thanksgiving, through about noon today. And we see some 18 to 24-inch totals there in the upper part of the lower peninsula of Michigan. Lake effect snows, again, around Marquette, pretty intense. And then around the Lake Erie band, just look at the color coding. So when you start to see the yellows and the oranges, that's a half inch to maybe over a foot of snow. Cleveland got snow, and especially the eastern portion of Cleveland, right around that area of Ohio. And here's how Alpine Valley, which is a ski resort, the webcam from earlier this afternoon looked pretty good piling of snow there. These ski lifts, the mountains aren't very impressive, but the snow oftentimes can be. And if you're curious about how much snow has actually fallen in the U.S., look at it. It's very characteristic. The streakiness of the lake effect snows show up there. And the UP of Michigan, forget it. There's a reason why people don't live there in the winter largely, because you just can't get around. And then there's a snow band that has already been laid down from the Dakotas into Minnesota. And of course, we're going to add to it significantly in that area in black. And as far as forecasting snow, getting well into December, starting on the 6th, which is not this weekend, but the next, there's a slight risk in the mountainous areas, and then this heavy snow band. This is lake effect snow, but also just snow in general, probably because of fast-moving little weather systems that are moving along the edge of that cold air. And if you melt down the precipitation and just take a look at the liquid equivalent, there's still a high probability of precipitation in the plains, and it just remains to be seen whether it'll be cold enough up there for that it'll be a rain-snow mix. My suspicion is that it'll start as snow and then end up as rain as the next weather system runs along. Let's take a look at that pattern change, and it's been pretty significant. So this is the EPS mean again. This starts Monday, the 1st of December. So generally speaking, a broad trough of low pressure across the entire U.S., except for some ridging building in on average across the northwestern U.S. So this is really, these heights are far below normal here. And so this is generally just cold. So everything underneath here is going to be cold. And sure enough, if you look at the temperature departures, right on cue, that's exactly where you see it. And then where the ridging is occurring, it looks like the readings will average above normal. Again, remember, this is an entire week we're talking about, so it doesn't mean that these areas will be cold the entire week, but a lot of it, because again, it is a mean. And they have another product here, which is snowfall rate anomalies, and these are running a little high, but not terribly high, in the Northeast especially, and you start to see why that extended forecast for snow around the 6th is starting to show up toward the end of this, so it must be pretty significant. Let's see how specifically this is going to affect temperatures. So we'll look at the National Weather Service high temperature departure for Saturday, tomorrow. Very, very cold here. Again, the colors indicate the a much above or below normal readings are, but the highs will be cold. Average City 23 degrees, only 24 degrees in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Chicago will barely get to freezing, maybe, but a big chunk of the U.S. below normal. Texas looking pretty toasty. Then moving ahead to Monday, this thing really gets serious. Remember, the mean trough was just carving out like this, and we're in the wake of that low over the weekend. Another little disturbance behind that, so readings are going to be very cold. The high where I live in Springfield on Monday will not get above freezing, as most of Missouri will not, and barely above freezing in parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas. 22 for a high in Chicago. Duluth, a high of only 14. Same with Fargo, and the cool is spreading into the northeast as well. Boston will only be 49 degrees. Charlotte also only 49 on Monday. And then midweek Wednesday, still cool across the country, but starting to moderate a little bit. Chicago still doesn't get above freezing. The only warm spots, or at least above normal spots, would be West Texas. And remember that ridging in the northwest starting to affect things there. Let's take a look at the 6 to 10 days temperature outlook. So this starts the day after that, Wednesday. So Thursday through Monday gets us through not this weekend, but the next. Still, the anomaly is for cool air in the Midwest, the parts of the Great Plains, and into the Northeast, while the West warms up quite a bit. And remember, the colors are confidence levels of that it'll be above or below normal. So the darker the color, the higher the confidence that the forecast will be correct. And then if we look at the 8 to 14 day temperature forecast, we're really looking just beginning not the tomorrow, Saturday, but the Saturday after that. Still, the anomaly will be for it to be cool in the Northeast. So the first half, basically, of the month of December will be cool in the Central Plains, Northern Plains, Great Lakes, and the Northeast. So any storms that do come along will produce snow in this area for sure. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.